In the NFL, there's a lot of good teams, but there's also a lot of bad teams. Some bad teams are able to turn around their bad seasons within a year or two, but these 7 teams probably won't turn it around for the next 10 years or even more. The Cleveland Browns. Now don't get me wrong, the Cleveland Browns have some talent, but that's it, just some talent. On offense, the Browns have Nick Chubb, who is one of the best running backs in the league, as well as Amari Cooper, who is an elite receiver. But the pack is mostly led by the stud defensive end, Myles Garrett, who is in his prime. Even with all that, the most Cleveland can hope for is a 7th seed spot in the playoffs and a very quick loss. Especially a team with a controversy-infused quarterback, Deshaun Watson, starting after week 11, they just don't have it in them to win a playoff game, let alone a Super Bowl. The Browns are famously bad at drafting, and it's still happening to this day. The Browns hoped that their first overall pick in the 2018 draft was going to work out, but their dream of Baker Mayfield being the franchise quarterback slowly faded away after many bad seasons. The Carolina Panthers. This one's pretty obvious, with the team trading away all of their best players after a slow start to the 2022 season, as well as firing their 4-year head coach. After the Panthers made the Super Bowl just a few years ago, Cam Newton slowed down quickly, as well as the entire team, so they've had to switch to rebuild mode ever since. But with horrible draft picks and horrible trades, the rebuilding effort resulted in many bad seasons, leading to the firing of the head coach and a new rebuilding effort. With this new effort, they are backtracking before going forward by trading away their best running back, their second best receiver, and many more to come. If the Panthers utilize the next few drafts well, they can hope for a winning season in 5 years, but even then they probably won't be good enough to go to a Super Bowl. The New York Giants. The Giants have had an amazing start to the 2022 season, but have they actually earned it? The answer is no. They haven't won a game by more than 1 score, and each win usually comes from a miracle fumble or pick from the other team, leading into a lucky scoring drive. Also, have you looked at the teams they're facing? They're facing teams that are very mediocre and some that are just downright bad, and they're barely winning those games. I mean, come on. The Browns, Jaguars, Packers, they just aren't facing good teams right now. Not to mention, all they do is hand the ball off to their star running back, which is just going to get injured at some point in the season. With an average quarterback and a horrible receiving core, they just aren't going to go anywhere anytime soon. The Detroit Lions. The Lions are just a bad team. I don't really have to explain this one, but I'll do it quick. The Lions have a flop of a quarterback, an injury-prone running back, and an average line. Even with high draft picks, all they could do was bring in a good D-end. Disregarding the past 2 seasons, the Lions couldn't even win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson, which is just insane. I mean, their last playoff win came in 1992, so this one is a pretty safe bet. The Chicago Bears. With a team that hasn't been seen in the playoffs for years, this is a pretty safe pick. The Chicago Bears are in rebuild mode and have been for a while, but the rebuild is going almost nowhere. The biggest thing that they have done is brought in a new quarterback, as well as trade for a receiver from the Steelers. Even the Lions are on a better track to rebuilding a team. With the rebuild not going so well, the former Ohio State star Justin Fields is getting hurt more than anyone else. The front office is doing almost nothing to build the team around Fields. If they were to do this, the Bears might actually find success with Fields and the offense. The Seattle Seahawks. Now don't get me wrong, the Seahawks are a great franchise going to many Super Bowls, but the team we've been seeing for the past decade isn't there and won't be for many years. The trade with the Broncos to get first-round picks and a star tight end was just a toss of a coin. With a lot of luck, the Seahawks have won this trade since Russell Wilson is looking very washed in Denver and the backup quarterback happened to be really decent. The next few years for Seattle are going to be mediocre at best. Geno can only be so good for so long, and the rebuild effort is going to have to be a lot better to go anywhere. Especially with the release of Bobby Wagner, the Seahawks defense is horrible, being ranked almost last in the league. This just isn't a team that's going to make the Super Bowl for the next decade. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. And finally, the Houston Texans. The Texans have been on a steep decline throughout the past years, starting in 2020 when they traded away one of their best receivers in the league, DeAndre Hopkins. After drafting the star quarterback Deshaun Watson, the only goal is to build around the young quarterback. Rebuilding was a good idea, but the Texans front office did it completely wrong and got rid of the only talent they had. The Cardinals basically robbed the Texans on giving them draft picks and a washed David Johnson for DeAndre Hopkins. After this horrible trade in 2020, the next season, the Texans once again basically just handed the star defensive end JJ Watt to the Cardinals. After all of these horrible rebuilding efforts, Deshaun then got caught up in legal allegations and didn't play for the remainder of the 2021 season, and has yet to play in the 2022 season due to an 11-game suspension for violating the NFL's trade policies. And finally, after all the dust settled, the Texans are the worst-ranked team in the NFL, with a quarterback that's playing like he's still in college, and a receiving core that's carried by Nico Collins. The only thing the team has to look forward to is Dameon Pierce, which they were not expecting to happen. So the story of the Texans is just horrible trades, bad coaching, and the only star they have is unexpected. Anyways guys, thanks for watching Beyond the End Zone. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.